And they were starving to death. And the Americans saw them out there, and they were out of range. They weren't being resupplied. So one day, the Japanese garrison of 70 guys waved the white flag. So something like 20 Marines get in a boat, and they go out to accept the surrender of the Japanese. They get off the boat, they walk over to where the guys with the white flags are. The guy drops the white flag, they open up with the machine guns, they kill those 20 Marines, and anybody that had a Marine Corps anchor and globe on their arms, they hacked their arms off with samurai swords and left them in a pile on the sand. Now after that, the Marine Corps didn't go and take those surrenders when they took the white flags. What am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that an honorable enemy, an enemy that, or an opponent I should say, who plays by the rules deserves a fair fight. If you're going to have a boxing match and both sides play by the rules, then the guy should win by playing by the rules. But if you're going to fight an enemy that uses a white flag to lure you into the crossfires and then massacre you because of your compassion and your decency, then I'm not going to continue to be beaten by those people. They're going to play dirty, I'm going to fight dirty. It's madness to fight an enemy that is trying to stab you in the back while you're having a boxing fight with him. If these people are trying to kill you, you got to kill them first. I'm not talking about cheating. We don't have to cheat to win. See, that's the nice part about being on the side of goodness, right? I mean, light and truth is the most powerful ally we have. There's a woman named Tammy. Please applaud because it's absolutely true. I mean, honestly, being on the side of truth is a nice thing to have. I'm friends with a woman named Tammy Bruce, who's a conservative commentator. She has a radio show. But Tammy Bruce used to be a radical leftist. She was a lesbian who was in charge of the National Organization for Women branch, and she was a radical left-winger until suddenly she saw the light. And I was talking with Tammy after an event in Phoenix one day, and Tammy said, you know, do you realize, Bill, how much effort it takes for the left to keep all of the windows papered up so that not the slightest little tear appears, so that not a single moment of the truth can enter the room? Do you realize how much effort that takes? I never really thought of it that way. She says they're terrified of it. Because if the slightest bit of light comes into the room, they're lost. That's why they have to control all these media outlets. And they have to force Glenn Beck off the air and all this other stuff. She said something that is very important. She said, light has power, but the darkness doesn't. I said, you know, that's true, Tammy. You can't pour darkness into a room. You can't turn on a device that makes a room dark. All you can do is turn off the light. If the light is on your side, you have incredible power. And if you have the Superdome blacked out, and it's pitch dark in there, and you light a birthday candle on the 50-yard line, you will light the entire side of that building. You won't light it brilliantly, but you will light every single corner of that building, because light has power, and the truth has power. We don't have to cheat to win. We just have to stop them from cheating to win. That's what we have to do. I'm not saying we have to cheat to win. When I say fight dirty with these people, I'm saying we are no longer going to gentlemanly bow our heads and nod and agree as they steal elections from us. I'm not talking about stealing elections from them. I'm just saying we're not going to tolerate them being stolen from us anymore. And we're not going to sit there and go, gee, I guess we lost. No, you people are miserable liars and cheats and thieves. And you know this is your philosophy, so come out in front of the American people and say, we're in favor of these laws that allow people to vote 15 times because we could not win otherwise. Come out and say it. That's how you deprive them of the moral high ground. That's how you win these arguments. You just don't make it about this, oh, well, the conservatives are crying about another lost election. We're not saying we want rules that favor conservatives. We're saying we want rules that favor fairness. We're in favor of limits so that elections can be fair. You're opposed to rules that make elections fair. Why? Why are you opposed to fair elections? What's the matter with you? You walking dead genetic mutants? Anybody else? We'll do two more, we'll call it then. Oh, sorry, this gentleman in the back's been waving all day.
Andrew Breitbart used to talk about, I remember watching an interview with him, and he said, you know, the worst thing you can call someone in today's society is a racist. And when you do that, the best way to argue or to answer that is to walk towards the criticism and ask for them to prove it.
Right.
In other words, if the media person asks a very pejorative, biased question to a Republican, big surprise, the best way to do it is to go after that person, make them prove their case without emotion but with facts. And when I look at the last election cycle, there was only one candidate that did that, and that was Newt Gingrich for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yep.
He was the only guy that was able to do that. His ratings went through the roof.
Yep.
And he won South Carolina, and then he stopped. And so I have a two-part question. The first, do you think it was a quid pro quo, why that one debate he all of a sudden wasn't fighting back? And two, can the GOP at this point even produce such candidates of such quality at least in that ability, because Newt has faults,
Mhm.
we know that.
Yeah.
But as far as having a populist message and being able to make these people look like fools, he had no equal.
No, he
those
was.
candidates, I didn't think.
And he ran against the media, which everybody loved. And
Yes.
conservatives would have come out and voted for him. And I don't know if he would have won the election, but we lost it anyway. I think we could. If he had fought Barack Obama face to face, Mitt Romney fought Obama one time. For 90 minutes, he actually took the fight to him and played offense for one time during the campaign, the 90 minutes of that first debate. And everybody went, whoa, 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 where the hell is this guy? And what did Barack Obama do? Oh, well, I don't know. Because that's the real Barack Obama. And Romney, did he bring it the second time? No. Did he bring it the third time? No. So the question is, why did Newt back down? I guess he started drinking the new Coke. I know that all of his staff and all of his campaign advisors and all these pollsters and all the other people say, no, 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 you don't want to be aggressive. You don't want to be seen as aggressive or mean. Everybody likes Barack Obama. Everybody likes Obama, so you can't criticize Obama. You know why everybody likes Obama? Because nobody criticizes Obama. It's a tautology. Can't criticize Obama because everybody likes Obama. Well, they like him because nobody criticizes him, because nobody points out the numerous character flaws that this man has. Start criticizing him, they won't like him anymore. Once they stop liking him, then all of a sudden they're going to start liking you. So the first part of your question is, I don't know why Newt gave it up. I suspect his staff did some internal polling, and these people who get paid millions of dollars to come up with the new Coke formula, which is the biggest marketing idea ever, are saying no, 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 no. But Newt should have paid attention not to the pollsters, he should have paid attention to the votes. He won a primary after he attacked the president and attacked the media. If he kept doing it, he would have won more primaries, but he didn't. Romney got an enormous bump, not just in terms of poll numbers, but in terms of respect and admiration when he brought the fight to Obama. And then we sat for the next two debates and said, is he ever gonna tonight? Is he gonna tonight mention Benghazi? No, I guess not. Okay. Candy Crawley cuts him off and that's the end of it? You're just gonna put it to bed, Mitt? You're just gonna let it go? Okay, all right. So it's the new
Horrible
company.
establishment guidance.
That's right. It's
Horrible establishment guidance.
Well, there's really two parties, right? There's the inside the Beltway party, and then there's the rest of the country. And these people just are determined to keep their power. So when you ask about new candidates, I applaud that the next conservative president would come from the pop culture. It'd be somebody like Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, or somebody who knows how to defend these principles and sell them. But then I saw Rand Paul do the filibuster. Yeah. And the thing that impressed me about that was twofold. It impressed me that he had enough moral clarity to see what was going on and the courage to bring it to the floor, but also, see, we have guys that sometimes get the message, but we don't have anybody who knows how to deliver the message. What Rand Paul put together there was, he took an understanding of the Constitution and a deep appreciation of this country's values and the courage to make a stand on them. He coupled this moral core with the ear for political theater of the filibuster, which meant that even people who don't like Rand Paul or like conservatives, when you've got one man alone on the floor of the Senate speaking for 12 hours because he passionately believes in it, you will respect that guy. I respect the guy who do a 22-hour filibuster in the name of socialism, because nobody who votes for socialism actually defends socialism. They pretend to be conservatives. If a guy got up there and said, listen, I think Marx is the greatest guy in the world, he'd have my respect because at least he's telling the truth and he's passionate about his beliefs. You can win voters that way. And the reason I knew I liked Rand Paul before this was, right after he was elected, I don't know if any of you heard this story, he was going through the security line at TSA in an airport. Rand Paul was in a line at TSA, and Rand Paul said, I'm not standing in this line. You're not going to search me. I'm not going to stand in line. I'm not going to be frisked. I'm not going through the metal detector. You're going to let me go right through the gate and get on my airplane. And the TSA guy said, oh, you're out of your mind. We can't do that. We're not allowed to do that. He says, no, you are allowed to do it. And not only are you allowed to do it, you're required to do it. Sir, my job is to make sure that everybody is screened. Everybody in this line. Rand Paul said, I'm not like everybody in this line. I am a representative of the people. I'm a senator from the state of Kentucky. And he brought out his pocket constitution and says here, the people's representative shall not be harassed, detained, or hindered in the pursuit of the people's work. Something like that, whatever the line is. They shall not be harassed or detained while going about the people's business. He said, it's in the Constitution. You have a right to detain and frisk and search every single other person in this line. I don't agree with it, but you can make the case, but I am exempt. And when I first heard that he wanted to go through the line, I thought it was being a dilettante, that he was having a diva moment. And I realized, no, he's a guy who's read the Constitution, and he is making a stand, and gaining publicity to prove to the American people that somebody still understands this stuff and still cares about it. It was a brilliant move. So I'm a Rand Paul guy now. Until he does something to make me say no, or somebody else better comes along, I'm liking Rand Paul quite a lot. We'll do two more, we'll call it a day. Yes, sir.
Mr. Virtual President, do you have any idea where those bogus women that blew Herman Cain out of the water came from?
Well, I have to tell you, 2 days before, the night before Herman Cain went on his press announcement to say that it didn't happen, I talked to his communications director who asked me, Cain came and spoke to us in Los Angeles. He said, Bill, we'd like to get in front of Herman Cain. I said, well, did this actually happen? He said, no. This is not Cain now, this is communications director. No, it didn't happen. I said, what about, how long is he going to ride this? He's going to ride this all the way to the convention. The next day he made a speech saying it didn't happen, and 3 days later he dropped out of the campaign. Because it did happen. It did happen. When a woman provides 15 years of phone records of private conversations with Herman Cain, that's evidence that it did happen. And if it happened for woman number 4, then it probably happened for woman number 3, and it probably happened for woman number 2 and woman number 1. And Herman Cain dropped out of the race. And I said to them, before he admitted that before he got out there, I said, guys, you cannot go out there and deny these allegations. You have to go out there and dismantle the allegations. You have to take every single one of these allegations, pull it apart, take the screws out of it, break it down to its component parts, and leave the gears on the ground. You have to reduce it to atoms, because if you don't dismantle them, everybody denies it. Guilty people deny it, and innocent people deny it. And Herman Cain did not dismantle those allegations, because he couldn't. I suggested to the communications director, when the first woman came along, right, claimed that there was a harassment lawsuit, right, and she got a settlement, and the settlement was proof that Cain had harassed her. That was her argument. I have a settlement, that's proof that Cain had harassed her. Now, what I said to Cain's people was, I said, what you need to do is get some researchers and find out how many sexual harassment lawsuits were settled under all of Herman Cain's company during the time that Herman Cain was CEO. I'll bet you it's 70 or 100. I'll bet you it's 100 cases have been settled because companies routinely settle. Somebody claims harassment, they say it's cheaper just to settle. Now, Cain could have got out there and said, during the time this woman made this claim, there were 100 cases of sexual harassment leveled against the various people in various of our companies. We settled 100 times. I'm against it, but my attorneys and accountants tell me it's a smart play. Are you telling me I had affairs with 100 women? Of course not. That's how you dismantle an argument. But he didn't do it. And when a woman comes up with 3 or 15 years of phone records, it's proof. Listen, it broke my heart. It broke my heart. But this is the problem we have with these guys. They're all about the power. And it's not even about the power. Because frankly, if Herman Cain had started his campaign by saying, ladies and gentlemen, I am running for President of the United States. I think the country's in dire shape and I think we need some new directions. Now I have to tell you something. There were many years of my life when my marriage was in trouble and I was not true to my wife. It's something I'm terribly ashamed about. It's a catastrophic failure of character on my part. It happened multiple times. My wife has found a way to forgive me. I don't know how, but she has. But these things happen. And you are going to find out about them one way or another. And I'd rather you find out about them from me before we start than from the press after all of you have given me all of your money and time and commitment and effort and faith and hope. Now, if you find that kind of infidelity that I committed to be disqualifying, I don't blame you one bit. I don't blame you one bit. I feel the same way about myself sometimes. But I think the country's in such dire shape that I don't think I can be sidelined because of it. I did it, I regret it, I admit it, and I apologize. Sincerely. I don't owe any of you apologies. I owe my wife an apology. And she's accepted my apology. If that's good enough for you, let's go forward. If it's not, I understand completely. That's courage. That's moral courage. And if he'd had that moral courage, he might be president today. But he didn't. He thought he could get away with it. You can only get away with it if you're a Democrat. I saw 2 more hands, and I can't do all these 2, and then we'll call it the night for sure.
Me first, or?
Have I been missing you this whole time? Oh, okay, good. Yes, sir. You, and then we're going on.
My question is, Mr. Virtual President, there was a speaker or someone who spoke to CPAC, and he went and brought up the fact that there was a lot, actually the Republican Party was in such you have all these, quote, experts.
Right.
And the experts come and they will tell you to do something, and you take their advice and you go off and you lose the campaign.
Right.
Now, how do we as voters distinguish between those candidates that are being fed by these people that walk away with millions of dollars?
That's a great question. And the only way I can think of is for people like you to ask them a question directly at a town hall meeting. Catch them at a town hall meeting or at a debate and say, listen, are you taking the advice of paid advisors who are giving you the same kind of advice they gave Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney based his entire campaign on a piece of get-out-the-vote software called Orca. It was a piece of software that had never been tried before. It all lived in one room. They had one room at the command center and campaign headquarters where they had all these servers lined up. So it's a single point of failure. So if the power goes out for that block, too bad for the election, too bad for the country. This software had never been tried before. They had 40 software engineers. The election starts and immediately the software crashes. Immediately. Never been tried before. And during the course of the day, as the votes get further and further away, the software that they were determined would help us get the ground game out sat there and didn't work. Now, Barack Obama and the Democrats tried a different piece of software. The software they tried was called Facebook, which is used by 400 or 500 million people every day, which is distributed on servers all around the world. Facebook never goes down, ever. And I thought that what the Democrats and the liberals were using in terms of their social media thing would be something that on election day would come up with a notice that said, today's election day, don't forget to go out and vote for Barack Obama. But that just goes to show you that I'm a Republican, a conservative, and an amateur. Because that's what I would have done because I'm an amateur. You know what the professionals in the liberal campaign did and the Democratic campaign did with Facebook? If you were registered as a Democrat in Facebook or showed up as a Democrat or like Barack Obama or any of these other things, you got on your wall several times a day, hey, it's 2 p.m. We know you've already gotten out there and voted for Barack Obama, but did you know that Cindy Johnson, Darrell Jones, and Pauline Watkins, all of whom live within 2 miles of you, haven't voted yet today? Why don't you go down there and get them to the polls? And as the day went on, they would get updates from who had voted and who hadn't, and they kept updating the list of the people who were in your circle friends who had not voted yet. Send them a message, get them an IM, call them on the phone, get them to the polls. Barack needs your help. By name. They virtually invited people to go and pick up strangers and get them to the polls to get them to go vote. Those are people that take politics seriously. You almost think those people want to win. So I don't know the answer to your question other than to say you hope they learn from experience and call them on it. Ultimately, all of the failures of our candidates are failures of the electorate. We don't hold our candidates' feet to the fire. We don't make them make promises, and we don't make them make statements that we can hold them to. This is the last question, and then we're going home. Yes, sir.
One of the things that the Democrats do very well is to hide the issues, or as your expression, they keep us in the dark. One of the things they're doing right now is they're having us talk about gun control when what they're really concerned about is Obamacare.
Right.
Right now, in all of the state houses, they're trying to pass laws to implement Obamacare, and nobody even knows about it because we're all talking about gun control. And that's not an accident in my mind. How do you view that?
What exactly is the question? The sleight of hand?
The question is, how do we compete against that?
Well, first of all, what they're really doing is they're using sleight of hand, right? Anybody in the audience, anybody, a magician, any people in the back here? Just the one? Here's what's interesting about sleight of hand magic, and I'm not going to give away any inside secrets, but this is the reason there's such a thing as sleight of hand magic. You can make a coin disappear or card tricks or something. We're wired as animals, not just as humans, not just as primates, but as animals. We're wired for rapid motion. If something moves quickly, chances are it's a predator or something that's about to hit us or strike us or eat us or whatever. So we are biologically hardwired so that when something moves fast, it gets our attention. So any kind of rapid motion, automatically, without thinking, without us being aware of it, we don't even realize it, we automatically look at that because we perceive it as a potential threat or something that lights up the alarm signals in our subconscious. Something rapidly moving over here could be bad, look at that. And all sleight of hand magic is based on something dramatic that's happening with one hand, and you look at that hand, but that's not where the action is. The action is in the other hand. It's always in the other hand. All of the actual motion, all of the hiding, all of the manipulation of cards and coins and stuff happens with the slow hand. And you can't help it. It's like you hit the knee, quick, your foot goes, you can't control that. If this guy hits me in the knee, I cannot make my knee not move. It's a reflex. So you're exactly right. What they do is they do something big and flashy and call everybody's attention over here. We got 20 dead kids in a town in Connecticut. All right, that ought to get people's attention. And now everybody's attention is where the flashy, quick hand motion is, and the hand that's not being watched palms the card. And that's how it works. So we have to understand how our opponents work. We have to understand the mechanisms. And once I've told you about that, you'll be more aware of how the Democrats work. But it won't help you if you think you can catch this guy doing magic. Because the fact of the matter is, even though you know that that's what happens, you still can't beat a magician. A magician's going to fool you anyway because you can't help yourself. They're that good. They're that skilled. But all of magic is the puff of light, the flash of smoke, or anything to attract your attention someplace while something else doesn't happen. There was a play called, I think it was called 10 Little Indians. It's an Agatha Christie play. It's a murder mystery, and it's performed in a lot of little repertory companies. And the premise is there's like 10 models, 10 little statues of Indians on the set. And every time something happens, one of these statues is taken away. And you see the person on the play, they're like, well, let's count the statues. There's only 8 left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And everybody sees them and sees the 8. And nothing changes, nothing happens on set. And all of a sudden somebody's murdered and somebody screams and everybody, and then they go, my God, what happened to the Indian on the mantelpiece? And it's gone. And the audience sits there just, what? Turns out the thing flips down, there's a little lever behind the set, and when the person is being murdered and screams, everybody looks over here and thinks, and nobody sees it. But you got to be aware of this, because that's how these people work, that's how they function. And we just have to be aware. So hopefully today, what we did was we gave you a chance to understand that things are actually moving in our direction, and things are not, it's worth the fight, right? It's worth the fight. It's not just holding on to the bitter end. It's going to go our way. You just have to stay in the fight. You just have to hang in there. They're dependent on you going home. Don't let them do it. Don't let them beat you up. Don't let them make you shut up. Don't let them hold your head in shame. They're the ones with the evil ideas, not you. You guys are the soldiers. So I'll leave you with this, We all had our hearts broken in November, and had our hearts broken in the last 4 or 5 years watching this country that we love just be destroyed in front of our eyes. It's enough to make you cry every day. It's enough to make you not want to get out of bed. But I'll just tell you one thing about this. You don't get to be Winston Churchill in noon. You don't get to be Winston Churchill in the daylight. Winston Churchill didn't get to be Winston Churchill because he led his people to untrammeled victory, and it began with an arc of triumph and ended in triumph. Winston Churchill is Winston Churchill because in the darkest night, when the bombs were falling, when England was all alone, when there were no allies, when Hitler had run over the entire continent, when there was nothing left but blood, toil, sweat, and tears, he went to the British people and he told them the truth about how desperate and dire the situation was, and he challenged them to stand. He challenged them to stand when things were darkest. The fact that you're in this room today means you're wired exactly the same way as Winston Churchill. The people who've given up have given up. You haven't given up. Don't give up. Don't give up. It's going to get better. These people will not win. They can't win. They're out of money, they're out of ideas, and they're out of time. So thank you very much for coming. If you left any money in your wallets, you should give it to these good people who brought them here. Thank you.